Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I have the 1972 Mitchell Motorhome pulled back in the shop here, and that means it's time to start on this full drive conversion. Parts are getting ready to roll in from Kincer Chassis, so we got to get this thing stripped down and ready to accept those parts. So let's go dig into it. All right, guys, like I said, I have the motorhome pulled back in the shop here. I did a little bit of cleaning around here because this thing is so big. Once you get pulled in here, it gets a little bit of claustrophobic. So I had to do a little bit of clearing around here to give me some more room to work on this thing. Usually when I would do a full drive conversion like this, we'd be working on the lift, and I'd probably even pull the cab, but we can't do either one of those things since we have the motorhome back on here. I mean, I probably could get it on the lift because this is a 12K lift, extra tall. But by the time we got it on the lift and got it picked up, I wouldn't be able to, it'd only be like 3 foot off the ground because even being extra tall, the camper is really tall too. So I kind of decided we're just going to do everything here on the ground like old school. And since we can't pull the cab, I'm going to pull the front clip off. So that's what the main thing we're going to do today, or this episode, I'm probably not going to get done today, is pull the front clip off. And we're going to paint the core support and inner fenders. Even though these are in pretty good shape, we're still going to get some nice fresh paint on it since we're going to have we're going to do all this work to it. Might as well make it nice, clean, and fresh. Job one is going to be pulling this hood off of here and getting it stored away where it can't get damaged. Then we got to get the 390 out of there and the MP435 since we're not using either of those. And then we have to start stripping the front of the frame down, all the two-wheel drive parts, the coil buckets, radius arms, the front cross member, all of that stuff, or the engine cross member. Two-wheel drives don't have a front cross member. The engine cross member out, and get ready for those Kincer Chassis full drive conversion parts. They told me they're going to start rolling in next week, and I want to be all ready for them when they start to roll in. We've been working a lot in the last few weeks with those guys over there at Kincer Chassis to get everything dialed in for this 7.3 swap with their full drive conversion. Those guys do an awesome job. I mean, it's just next level kind of quality of product. The 7.3 Power Stroke, they haven't done one of those, and they have their kit integrates motor mounts with their kit. They sell their motor mounts with their kit, and since they haven't done one, they had to design motor mounts for that engine, and they use 3D scans. They have a 3D scan of the engine bay, and they had a 3D scan of a 7.3 Power Stroke, and they even had a 3D scan of a supercooling radiator like we had here. And since they had all that, they were able to place the engine in the engine bay digitally on the computer and then design a motor mount to mount it exactly where they need it to be on their chassis system. So it was really cool. We even did things like we're putting a Hydro Boost on here, and they put a Hydro Boost scan on the firewall and made sure it was going to clear the valve cover and everything, because I've had some clearance issues with the Ultimate Crew Cab back there with Hydro Boost on the valve cover and had to spin it upside down. But it looks like we're going to clear with the standard Hydro Boost setup, and they even have a Hydro Boost setup they're sending with it as well. So we're doing their steering, the full drive kit. They're building us a 410 axle. We changed the gear ratio to 410. We originally were doing just 373. We decided that 410 would be better for this thing for towing wise. So the axle is not going to get here next week, but I think everything else is going to get here, which that's okay because all the chassis parts are the parts that's going to take a long time to cut out and weld in and bolt in and all that kind of stuff. So main thing we're going to do now is strip the front end out, and I'm going to get the inner fenders stripped down so I can get those to sandblasting and get them painted. And then we got to get the engine, the old engine and transmission yanked out of here. I'm going to pull the seat and the floor mat. We're going to get rid of the old carpet in here and pull the seat out of here because I have to access the front cover, not the front cover, the transmission cover to get the gear stick out, but also we have to change out to a full drive cover. So we'll be yanking part of the interior out here as well. So yeah, there's lots to do yet. We were talking earlier, I was talking with Chris about changing out the rear axle because it has a Dana 70 in the back. And since this thing's a pretty big motorhome and he wants to tow behind it, he has a four-wheel drive international travel-all. He wants to pull that behind this motorhome. And had a little bit of a worry that Dana 70 wasn't going to be up to snuff. So I had thought of upgrading to a Dana 80. But he wants to stay 8x6.5, understandably, and he wants to stay the track width to look original. He doesn't want a bigger wider axle underneath it, which is understandable as well. So I was trying to look at Dana 80 options, and was looking at stuff out of Dodges, but I wanted disc brakes, so we were limited on years on that. And then we turned into looking at E350 and E450 vans, because those have 8x6.5, and some of those with a heavy GVW package was with Dana 80s. But unfortunately, the ones with Dana 80s, most of them are too wide. The cutaway vans, the box vans basically, they're too wide. So I think we're just going to keep the Dana 70 and cross our fingers, but I'm probably going to be doing like a fin diff cover on the back to keep it cool, and I might even be adding a temperature sender on it just so we can monitor differential temperatures and make sure the thing's not getting too hot and cooking the pinion bearing and something like that. So, yeah, the full drive conversion stuff is going really smooth. There's like I said, the guys over at Kincer Chassis, they're very, very thorough. And I think everything's going to go pretty smooth on that end. But for now, we just got to get this thing yanked apart, so I'm going to get after it. right, moving right along with the teardown, we have the entire front clip all blown apart, as you just saw. All the bits and pieces over there and the painted bits over there out of the way so I don't hit anything with them and hurt the paint. I'm probably going to wrap those things up and get them stored away somewhere, because it'll be a few minutes before we get it back together. So I don't want to have those things just laying right there, just waiting for a tool to fling across the shop and land on that pretty hood. But anyway, I know some of you guys are probably wondering, well, I don't know, maybe some of you guys aren't. I don't really get a lot of the kind of comments of people just thinking they know everything and try to tell you how to do everything. But Probably, you might be asking yourself, why did I blow it all apart instead of just yanking the front clip off all in one piece? Because I know you can do that. That is because Chris wants to paint the inner fenders and the core support while it's out, so I blew everything apart so we could sandblast and paint those inner fenders and that core support and get it all nice and shiny black. The passenger side, no, this is the driver's side fender that had the house battery for the camper. It does have a little bitty rust hole right there in the corner, so I'll be welding that up before we take these to get them blasted. But other than that, I think they're in really nice shape for some inner fenders. You know, these inner fenders are usually something that rots out on these trucks, especially the passenger side under the OEM battery location. But this one looks to be good. We just have that house battery problem. Looks like they had some leakage going on there, judging by the corrosion there on that. But you see here on this inner fender, see that 350 that's written on there? That I noticed that when I was taking it apart. That's the first time I've actually seen that number on the core support, and that number is the rotation number. It's there's a little box in the top left corner of the build sheet that would have, it says rotation, and it's a 4-digit number, although I've only ever seen them in 2 and 3-digit numbers. But I think that's like the rotation in the day, or maybe the rotation in the week, or something along those lines of which truck it is on the assembly line, so they can keep all the painted parts together and what pieces go to what truck. And you can see it right here on the front of the firewall here, the edge of the firewall, the 350. We'll probably see that number in other locations on this truck, since it's a really nice clean truck. You know, that number would still be visible a lot. Oftentimes you see the one on a cab on the firewall. Sometimes you'll see that on the firewall. This one's, I've seen them here lots of times too. Probably depends on who was writing them and what assembly line it was. I've seen them on the inside of doors. I've seen them on the backside of door panels. You know, basically anything that was painted, they might have wrote that number on it so they could identify it and know which truck it goes to. Probably something that's like this. It's kind of a unique color. This is hot ginger metallic or something along those lines. Pretty rare color. There's probably not many painted this color. This is the first one I've seen. So there probably wasn't a bunch of these going down the assembly line at the same time. So they might have just generalized, like put it on the core support and on the cab, and basically all the painted parts that were this color they knew went to this truck. Kind of, that's how it works in my head. I don't know if that's true or not. The next step is going to be yanking this engine out. The engine and transmission, I'm going to do them separately just to make things easy. We'll just do the four bolts on the back of the bell housing and exhaust, fuel lines, throttle cables, all that kind of stuff, and motor mounts, and we'll just yank the engine out. That's the next steps of the teardown. Then we'll probably clean it all up, and then we'll start on the suspension. But for now, we're just going to focus on the drivetrain part of it, and see if I can get this thing yanked out of here. All right, guys. Well, I have everything disconnected from the engine. Hopefully I don't miss anything. I have all the bolts out of the bell housing. I have it supported by a floor jack, the transmission that is, not the bell housing. So pretty much everything is ready to yank out of here. And I went ahead and pulled the seat, if you can see there, and the floor mat and the cover off, just so I have more room here. And I'll have a lot more room when I pull the transmission out as well, to kind of access things better and get that thing out of there. But I wanted it out of the way because I got to jack the thing way up, and just made me feel better about not bumping into stuff and breaking things. So floor pans on this thing are really, really nice. There's a little bit of rust showing up right here. We'll get that treated and taken care of, but man, these floor pans are really nice. This thing was really taken care of, obviously. The passenger side is perfect. There's no flaws at all in the passenger side. So this thing lived a pampered life to have floor pans like that. But we have the transmission, or the engine, almost ready to pull out. So let's go ahead and do that and see if we can get this thing out of here. All right, like I said, I already have the thing pretty much jacked up and the transmission supported. And I have all the bolts out of the back of the bell housing that go into the transmission. I think we'll just see if we can get that input shaft out of the clutch, and we'll be on our way. It's not really wanting to fall out right now. Let's see if I can persuade it a little bit. It's starting to come. think it's just kind of in a bind a little bit, whatever way it is. There we go. I figured this thing come out here a lot easier than this, but they always fight you. There we go. Just being a little stubborn. I think we're clear of the input shaft. Not quite. I did forget one item, and that was I remember to unhook it from the transmission, but I forgot it's still on the bell housing, and that's the reverse cable for the reverse lights, which comes over here. Wouldn't be an engine swap without coolant all on the floor, would it? Easy as that. Get some potential energy down here, staying closer to the floor. So there we have it. We have our 390 out of the engine bay there. It's the first time probably since this truck was built. There's the front of our 435. Still has some of the orange paint on it, which you would kind of expect with this truck being such in good shape. Looks like they torched out some of the engine crossmember there. Probably something to do with those headers, if I had to guess. We'll be taking all that out anyway with the Kincer four-wheel drive kit. All this has to go. The buckets have to go. We'll be welding in their own crossmember deal and some frame support braces with their engine mounts for the four-wheel drive system. So all that's going to be cut out and welded in. But we'll get into getting this stuff out of here. And they actually shipped all the parts. I got a LTL notification, freight notification. That stuff should be here Friday, so we'll check that out once that gets here, and we'll carry on with the tear down of the front. All right, well, I've been whittling away at this thing, getting things just kind of blown apart, stuff we don't need and stuff we need to get out of the way. I have the steering gear, the brake booster, all that kind of stuff out of the way, and I'm getting ready to pull the I-beams and the radius arms out of the way, because we won't be needing that, and then we'll start stripping the buckets down, and also have stuff like the fuel lines and the brake lines and all that stuff out of the way, because we're going to be cutting all of this out. And earlier this morning, I got a call from the freight company that we got a package showing up today, so it should be here pretty quick, so let's go check that out. All right, guys, here it is. Big care package from Kincer Chassis. This is everything but the axle, so they tell me. They're still working on the axle. So that's what's behind door number 1. These guys do a really good job of packing. I'm not surprised because pretty much everything they've done so far in this project has been top notch. So I am not surprised that this thing is packaged very well. All the boxes are labeled. They even have the name on the boxes and what's in it, and box number 1, box number 2. So we're gonna get this thing cleaned out and see what all we have. And there's a lot of stuff in here. They have this thing packed in here. I think that's the sway bar. We upgraded, we've done some stuff that's not just on your standard kit. One thing we did sway bar, we did their steering kit, and we did their Hydro Boost, which is what's in here. And, you know, just making sure everything is good for this kit, or for this truck. Everything it needs. Oh, I see some radius arms down there. I'm going to get opening some of these boxes up, see what's in them, and just start going through everything. All right. I'm excited to get this stuff open and take a look at it for the first time. This is Hydro Boost kit, box number 2. Wow. Very complete kit. All the hoses, we already have all the hoses made. And brake lines. And they're labeled. Wow, really nice stuff. And here is the money shot, the Hydro Boost, with a nice billet adapter. And a Willwood master cylinder. This is some really fancy stuff. That's probably a bracket for the... Can you guys see this? I'm not even paying attention to the camera. Oh yeah, I think you can see it over there. And then instructions. I'm glad that they have print instructions because I have everything on online on the computer, but having print instructions is pretty nice when you're working out here in the shop where I don't have a computer right with me. I know some of this stuff might be a little expensive, or, you know, on the surface look a little expensive, but when it's this well engineered, and I guess I haven't put it together yet, but I expect everything's going to go together so smoothly and packaged well, and just everything's just meant to go together. I think the time saved on this is really going to help pay for itself. This is just sway bar links. Those are really nice units. See those? That'll be sway bar links. That'll be pretty far down the road. I really like this Hydro Boost setup. I might have to see about getting that for the crew cab. I wasn't really happy with how I set up the Hydro Boost on it. Box number 8. This is just bolts and some misalignment spacers. Nothing too fancy there. All right, this is steering shaft. This is probably part of the steering kit. We got nice stainless U-joints for the steering shaft, and there's the steering shaft itself. Does it say steering? Nope, just says box 6. There's the steering gear. I wonder what's in this big box here. Does it say? Coil buckets. So those are the coil buckets. Just says box 7. Here's some of the fabrication parts I wanted to get a peek at. So here's their label you put on the side. So this is going to look really neat on the frame once we get it all painted up. But these are the radius arm brackets. So this is what's going to go on the side of the frame, and our suspension components go into this. So this is what's going to be welded down on the side of the frame. And then these little plates bolt up there. Those are going to look pretty sweet. So that is something I need right away. So we'll set that over here with the fabrication stuff. I'm guessing maybe this is some more of that as well. Let's see. Yes. This is going to be the shock mounts. Oh no, this is motor mounts. Okay, so these are the motor mounts they made up for us. All right. Not exactly apparent on how that's going to go. I think it probably bolts on like that. This is probably there. This is probably the driver's side, and it bolts on like this, and then the power stroke mount sits in there like that, something like that. We'll have to, again, once everything goes together, it will make more sense, I think. Take a look at these radius arms. They're all painted and powder coated. Ooh, beef. Yeah, this is nice. Got a nice beefy hind joint here. I like to see that. And then we have a rubber isolator here for ride quality. On the Ultimate Highboy, I have solid hinds on both ends, and it makes for a little bit harsher ride. You get a little bit better control, but you have these, if you have polyurethane bushings on one end, I think it helps quieten the thing up and give you a little more kind of a modern ride quality. And then we have another one down there. We have a sway bar. Looks like there's part of our radius arm there too. Let's see what's in this big box here. I might have to lay all this out and kind of in front here and kind of give you guys a picture of what it all looks like on the floor, because we have so many bits and pieces here that's kind of hard to get the whole picture of everything here. This is going to be the box I'm going to be in the soonest, I think. So here's the coil buckets. I can tell that right off the bat. Here's the nice coil buckets. And those get bolted into the inner frame there. I haven't seen our springs yet. Our coil springs. Maybe they're going to ship those with the axle. We still don't have the axle yet, so we're definitely not going to be needing those right away. That is some kind of frame bracket. That might be our track bar mount. Here's the shock mounts I thought the motor mounts were earlier. So here's the shock mount. That is an add-on piece for the coil buckets, because if you have coil overs, you don't need these because your coil overs act as your shocks. So these are additional. I'm guessing instead of adding there's the instructions. I'll have to set those out and read those before I start doing anything. This is what I was after right here, the main piece. Oh, they're taped together. So yeah, this is kind of what makes this whole kit work. This is the piece that sandwiches, you cut out of the, let me just show you on the frame here, since we're pretty much down to the bottom of the bucket on our pallet here. So, you know, obviously all this stuff's going to go, this cross member and stuff and everything on the inside of the frame. And then this goes, I'm not sure exactly the orientation, but this goes inside the frame wheel there and kind of sandwiches everything together. See, that's where all those bolts go. And your coil buckets and your steering gear and everything bolt to this thing. And that's the meat and potatoes of this kit. Now there is a cross member that goes in between there, we'll be putting as well to help strengthen the front of the frame. But yeah, this is kind of the base. This piece right here is kind of the base that everything starts from. So I'm gonna get this thing kind of all figured out, and we're gonna get to cutting on this. And I guess it's really just getting down to cutting all the pieces out and getting all these fancy parts from Kincer Chassis installed onto this thing. And then we'll get the front axle here, and we'll get this thing on 4 wheels again so we can move it around. This thing takes up a lot of room in the shop, and my back isn't exactly happy about having to work on the floor, but I'm making do. I think I'm gonna actually go buy a better creeper, because my creeper's kind of, the wheels kind of blown out on it. Get a better creeper and I'll be all right. I'm gonna get to cutting this stuff out. But anyway, guys, if you like this project, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.